When I first heard about the Baha'i faith, I was going from church to church, temple to temple, mosque to mosque. I realized that they have one common denominator. Most people don't realize it, because if they did, we wouldn't be so separate as a people. I felt like Baha'u'llah was talking just to me. I said, okay, well, where do I sign up? Can I get some of this today? Baha'u'llah teaches us that art is a form of worship because art brings people together. The writings advanced my artwork. I learned there's beauty in people that I never thought was beautiful. I started seeing people differently, seeing them as human beings. It started to show me that there is some reality to this Baha'i thing. It's something that I pray that the world gets a grip of.
Welcome. So good to see you. Have you been?
Okay.
We have these monthly dialogues to address race in America, to help us find common sources of unity.
Baha'u'llah clearly talked about the need for racial justice and racial unity, and he talked about it specifically in the United States. His son Abdul Baha came to Washington DC and talked about the importance of racial unity and racial justice. And the Washington DC Baha'i communities had a commitment to racial justice from the beginning.
Abdul Baha went to a historically black college, which was Howard University. It's a sign and a symbol beyond just the obvious that he went there. Considering also that Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of faith, talked about the black are the pupil of the eye. And I think there's a connection.
We had actually many connections to that school at the time. Madam Avanti, Louis Gregory, Alain Locke, and we have a Baha'i center, the only one in the whole country in an African-American neighborhood at the time, just next to Howard. Right? So you start to see these connections, you start to see this community and go, what was the role of the Baha'i faith in that community?
We have writings that are over 100 years old in dealing with racism in America. Shoghi Effendi wrote in the 30s, let the white make a supreme effort in their resolve to lose their usually inherent and at times subconscious sense of superiority. I think about today, what does that look like? How do we put those teachings into action?
Reflecting on the influence of being a Baha'i child in this community and seeing black and white Baha'is who, as a matter of course, shared equal authority and responsibility on the governing councils. And I think that really actually has a profound influence on children growing up and seeing that the Baha'is are really actively trying to understand what racial unity means.
And the Baha'i community is addressing not only race directly, but the consequences of racism by working with the children, working with the youth, helping them to understand their capacity to take control of their spiritual and intellectual lives.
What I see the Baha'i community doing now is that they're adding to the community that's already here. And with the resources that they've been gifted with, they're exchanging that with the native population and also getting something in return.
Baha'u'llah came to raise a new race of men. And for that reason, when you become a Baha'i, you can make an impact to change the whole character of the city by yourself right away. Because you are viewing humanity as one.
I think the young professionals who move to DC find a lot of excitement, but oftentimes find trouble feeling like they connect to a solid community outside of their job. There's a tremendous amount of resources and access to people, power in this city, but I think a lot of people as they progress into their 20s and early 30s start to wonder, well, what's it all for? What are we doing here? So when I first started exploring the Baha'i faith and learned about Baha'u'llah, I was really taken by how grand the scope was of the vision and yet how personal and how immediate it was. The vision that Baha'u'llah gave us was really a vision for transforming society from the bottom up, beginning with the self, beginning with our hearts, and then looking at the family, and then the community, and then the nation, and then our world. And so for people who are looking for a grander sense of purpose, a way to connect what they're doing every day to what they want to be doing and who they hope to become, there's a place for them in the Baha'i faith. There's a place for everyone. Whether they embrace the faith explicitly or not, they can find a way to connect to Baha'u'llah. It's really transformed my experience of this city. And it's given me a tremendous sense of hope for myself and my future, but also for DC.
When we moved to DC last year, we were connected to the Baha'i community through our Baha'i friends in Atlanta. It felt like we have a family here. We were immediately invited to the study circle about the Baha'i teachings. Now we're studying the history of the faith.
One of the greatest things we've taken away from the study circles is how do we apply those teachings in the real world, how to build community in a loving way that brings people together. One of the things that we went to were these devotionals that were going on around the city, and just came up, why don't we host one of these? We were not Baha'is, we just loved the spirit that it brought.
So we basically invite everyone, including strangers, friends, neighbors, and every time we have new people coming, so that's very exciting.
It really has been interesting to see this sort of community of people, both Baha'is and non-Baha'is, grow and get to know each other and build these different connections with each other. We've even had some friends of ours who went on to study some of the books that we studied because it was interesting to them.
So simply creating an opportunity to get to know each other that really makes an impact on these people's life and on our life too. It makes me happy to see the community becoming more connected.
Years ago, a few people came to my house and basically introduced the Junior Youth Empowerment Program to me. The part of the program that really made me keen on joining it was the fact that I'd be working with kids in my own neighborhood. I've lived here all my life, and I've realized that most people don't really think about the community as a whole. I think it's important for the youth in my neighborhood to realize that they play an important role in taking charge rather than waiting for someone older to solve their problems for them. Because I think if they take charge, then those younger than them will see that they can do it too.
It's a big Latino community here in the city, and being Latino myself, it's been interesting to see how I can be a role model to them. They have someone that they can talk to, and they have someone they can relate to, and it creates a much more productive atmosphere for us in the junior youth group. And I think that more work like this in communities that are changing so quickly, like you mentioned, is extremely important if we really want to sort of progress towards a more united and a more solid community in also across the country and in the world as well.
The text that we study not only helps the animators or the adults and the junior youth realize that they're both capable of becoming more active within their communities, but it also helps them become more aware of their spiritual potential. As you develop those mental capacities, it helps you all throughout life because you're just more alert and more aware of the things that you could be doing for your community in all, no matter where you are, no matter what your community is. Yeah.
A lot of times in high school, people forget to care about other people as much as they would care about someone they loved. We always feel like we're competing to be the prettiest or to be the most well-liked. And the fact that the Baha'i faith does teach that we should all be equal really helps me.
I started the junior youth group when I was 10. Me and her, we started at the same time. Something that I like about the junior youth group is that I get to learn about my community. And when you do service, it helps you learn more about your community.
I remember one service project we did is we went around with hot chocolate. We gave it to people in the community, like he said, and we talked to them. If you really get to know everyone, everyone will come together as one.
The vast majority of people want to help others, but if no one tells you how, then you don't know how. This gives you steps. It says be caring, be truthful, help others. Once you have steps and you have qualities that you can aspire to, then it's easier.
For us as animators, we get really excited every time that we see that potential in you, and every time we see that you're already doing that, and that really renews our commitment to continue working with you. And in the long run, we hope that you also become animators and also agents of change for others in your community.
One of the things that as a family we are always working towards is justice. This area is a food desert. There's takeout, there's 7-Eleven, and there's liquor stores. And that is bothersome because people need to be able to access good food. So the garden is really great. Not only can we get food from it, but it's interesting to people because they want to learn more. We have cucumbers, we have tomatoes, eggplant, we had melon. I think we have kale right now as well. The children's class really loved the garden. Even though there are mosquitoes, they still want to be out there, and their excitement is so wonderful. It's contagious, and they like to pick, they like to think about it, they like to know what it's called and can I eat it. And it's really wonderful to see how excited they are about the garden. Once you've grown something, even once you've picked it yourself, even just doing that, there's a feeling of pride. I picked this, I was the one that picked it. So I think that they develop more pride in their food, and they develop more pride in themselves because they saw it growing and they saw it picked, and they start to realize the benefits of eating healthy. I think that the garden facilitates building community because it is a way to connect people. If we get other people interested in it, they might want to grow it themselves. If there's another option available to them that they are able to participate in and that their kids are able to participate in, then we can help start to reverse some of the dietary concerns that people in this neighborhood may face. In the Baha'i teachings, it is important that we are viewing others as more than who they are on the surface, that we're seeing everything good about them and all of their potential. And I want the kids of the neighborhood to know each other and to love each other and to support each other. So affirming that what they're doing is good and that what they're doing is beautiful is very important. Instead of being just your neighbors, people become family.
The fundamental principle or tenet around which all the teachings of Baha'u'llah revolve is the oneness of humankind. Children's classes, junior youth groups, devotional gatherings, and study circles are all ways in which we can realize our potential and grow together spiritually. There are so many challenges that we're facing in the world today, from materialism, prejudice, racism. Our children are growing up in a really difficult environment. Baha'u'llah's teachings bring us a vision of a world of social justice and equity, where the oneness of humankind is something that is celebrated, where there's unity and diversity. The Baha'i community is engaged in a series of activities which are not just for the Baha'is, but for the entire community to come together and to grow together spiritually and to be of service to one another. Baha'u'llah says that the greatest station a person can achieve is to be of service to his fellow man. To me, I think that's what these activities are all about. It's ways in which that we're all able to serve our fellow human being. And this community building process is what we're seeing in neighborhoods all across Washington, DC.